View it later. My name is Alnon. I'm going to start getting into the streaming aspect of my gameplay, and so I want to start out with a video on what I think the community is missing about hunters. I'm here on my survival hunter. His name is Alnon, my main. And I'm just going to kind of go over a couple things in the talents. I'm going to start there. First thing, this improved trap seems to be what most people are going with. And it's the level 60 talent in the middle. I personally feel that this, even though it gives your explosive trap twice as often, the damage increase from having two explosive traps is not nearly as effective as steel trap for single targets or caltrops for your AoE targets, or if your single target is going to stay in the same place the entire time. Caltrops DPS actually is a little higher than steel trap, especially since the final level 100 talent, Expert Trapper, gives the damage boost to caltrops and steel trap as well. It ends up being a greater DPS increase. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out. Your top tier, kind of basically what you prefer to go with. I should probably explain quickly the gameplay for the Survival Hunter. Your main focus is going to be this Mongoose Bite. You want to try and get 6 stacks of Mongoose Bite. It resets with Laceration and with Flanking Strike, which is your pet attack. That we don't have the artifact weapon yet, so we are missing a main DPS cooldown that we'll use once we obtain 6 stacks of Mongoose Bite. But that's later, once the Legion game actually drops. So let's get back to this. Kind of depends on what you want to do for personal preference on your tier 15. I like throwing axes. Does a fair amount of physical damage. I try to keep it up on cooldown, so there's always one recharging, but never off a recharge. It has a low focus rate, ends up doing a good amount. Second row is the other thing I want to point out. A lot of guides online and a lot of people in the community are saying that this talent, Snake Hunter, is the best ability. I would have to disagree. It's on a 1.5-minute cooldown and gets you 3 charges of Mongoose Bite. Guarantees you get 6 stacks of your Mongoose Bite, increasing the damage, and then when we get the artifact ability, the Call of the Eagle, that is not what it is called. I think it is called the Eagle. I apologize that I do not have that name ready for you guys. It is the base ability you get with the artifact weapon. Fury of the Eagle, that is what it is called. Fury of the Eagle does damage based on how many stacks of Mongoose Bite. So every other Fury of the Eagle, sure, you're going to get 6 charges of Mongoose Bite. However, I've been running with Mortal Wounds. Increases the chance that Lacerate gets to give you a charge of Mongoose Bite. Now, Lacerate is a bleed. So not only do you get that 2% chance every time you put Lacerate on the target, but every time it does take one of its damage of ticking damage, it increases the chance to get a Mongoose Bite. I have seen a lot of success with this personally when in raid setting. As long as I wait till I have almost 3 charges of Mongoose Bite ready to go, when I start my build up, I almost always get at least 5 or 6 stacks. So that's my personal opinion, is that Mortal Wounds actually ends up giving you a higher DPS over the course of a boss. I also ought to point out that a lot of my experience comes from raiding. I raid in a mythic guild on Darkspear, so this is not necessarily what I think is best for the world content, although I do use basically the same build on my Survival Hunter when I'm doing world content, so you can take it for what it's worth and what you feel like is best for you. The level 45 talent, post haste makes the most sense. You harpoon, get out of any stuns or traps, and then you get a movement speed. Far Strider, not that great unless you're doing a lot of crit strikes and a lot of little tiny adds. You have to jump around a lot. It's not as beneficial. In a raid setting, I have seen the advantages of this. If we are doing a lot of movement, I'm able to stay with the boss. But Harpoon's only on a 20-second cooldown, as it is. Very rare you're going to run into an instance where it's not on cooldown. Dash, pointless. Aspect of the Cheetah, it's on a 3-minute cooldown. Not worth even extending its duration. I went over the level 60 talents already, so once again, Steel Trap for single target, Caltrops for AoE, or if your single target is never going to move. But keep in mind that Caltrops takes a lot more management to keep up because you have to put it down twice as often, or 4 times as often as Steel Trap, and it only does damage as long as they're standing inside it, whereas Steel Trap applies a consistent bleed. Improved traps, I will point out that it does have its advantages if you're going to have to use Freezing Trap a fair amount or Tar Trap. The extra damage from the Explosive Trap is minimal compared to what the other talents have. Level 75, I would say go Ranger's Net. It's nice to reduce their movement speed for a little bit. If you run into an instance where you're continually stealing aggro, getting low health, Camouflage might be beneficial, but it is on a 1-minute cooldown. You do gain health every second, but only while you're camouflaged. Sticky Bomb, tanks hate the knockback. Just be nice to your tanks, don't use that. Level 90, Dragon's Fire Grenade, and probably going to be the best choice in all instances. Butchery doesn't do that much damage. It turns Carve into a recharge, and the damage is not nearly as much as Dragon's Fire Grenade, particularly because Dragon Fire Grenade is on a 30-second cooldown. I had a lot of success with this, especially on single target. If you have a lot, and I'm talking 6, 7, 8 adds that you're continuously hitting, Serpent Sting will probably be the best one to go with, because you can carve and apply the 37,605 nature damage dot to every target with one carve. Don't have to worry about it for 15 seconds, and then reapply it. But that's only if you have a lot of targets. Right now HFC has several trash pulls that this is beneficial on, but if you're killing them really fast, Dragonfire's Grenade is going to be your overall better DPS. Level 100, same thing. I think the Expert Trapper is what to go with. Explosive Trap gets 75% increased damage on the target that it triggers on, so that's good for single target, AoE, anything. And then your Steel Trap, it adds another bleed that ticks for 1 second and does 34,000 damage. It makes Steel Trap a lot more beneficial of a talent to use. It doesn't, unfortunately, do much for Caltrops. Damage increased by 50%, but they have to stay in it. Once again, I'm not a super big fan of Caltrops, just because they have to stay in it to receive the damage. Spitting Cobra is decent if you find yourself getting really focus starved and you're okay with losing the damage from your traps. I think traps, the bleeds from your traps, are one of the essential functions of a survival hunter that I feel like a lot of people are missing. A lot of streamers, expert gamers, they're solely focused on the way that Mongoose Bite works, and even though that is the pivotal point of the damage Throw Hunter is going to do, if you can upkeep your bleeds and use them on cooldown, they're all on a 30-second or a 1-minute cooldown. They tie nicely with currently the DPS ring, which we will lose in Legion, but it does tie in well with that. The 30-second recharge is really nice to be able to hold that for a short period of time if you've got heroes coming up without losing a lot of extra DPS. Aspect of the Beast, pointless. I don't know why they are insistent that this is such a big thing. The tenacity, your pets don't take much damage anyway. Ferocity gives a small bleed in comparison, and the reduced movement speed. You've got Tar Trap on a 30-second cooldown, reduces movement speed. You don't need to consistently be reducing movement speed. Now, I do build things a little bit differently when I'm doing PvP. I always go Caltrops in PvP. I make sure I have Rangers net. And then I go Way of the Monk Nathal, just because the increased attack power, do a pop Raptor Strike, increased attack power, it tends to do well. I can see instances where Throwing Axe could do a lot for you as well. However, with the Harpoon, it's very rare that they're going to actually be able to stay away from you for a long period of time. Alright, now, let's get into the gameplay a little bit. Just want to do a quick little smack at this training dummy. Kind of just show you a little what I talked about with the bleeds and where I'm at. I am going to pop Aspect of the Eagle at some point after I apply all my bleeds. Aspect of the Eagle increases the reset chance on your Mongoose Bite charges, or not the reset chance, but the chance to gain charges of Mongoose Bite by 100%. That means that when you use Flanking Strike, you get a charge. When you use Lacerate, you get a charge, but it doesn't count on the bleed. The passive here with the Hunting Companion, all your pets attacks, 4.2% chance to grant you an additional charge of Mongoose Bite. So Aspect of the Eagle takes that to 100% chance. You'll continually keep up Mongoose Bite charges. That's the other reason I'm not a big fan of the Snake Hunter talent. Yes, you could rotate it back and forth, go Snake Hunter, go Aspect of the Eagle, Snake Hunter, Aspect of the Eagle. But with the Mortal Wounds, Aspect of the Eagle, you're always going to have your 6 charges. And it's rare that even without it that you don't get at least 5. So here we go. I'm going to Harpoon in, apply my bleeds, then pop my DPS cooldown. If you don't apply your bleeds before you pop the DPS cooldown, you end up losing damage either by not getting your bleeds up for a couple seconds while you're throwing in your stacks of Mongoose Bite, or you end up losing the benefit you get from Aspect of the Eagle because you're trying to apply your bleeds. So the bleeds that I have set up in my current talent setup is Steel Trap, Explosive Trap, Dragon's Fire Grenade. Gonna apply those as quickly as I can, pop my DPS cooldown, start into my rotation. The other thing you need to keep in mind is that you have a chance. The tier set I currently have, so the Hellfire Citadel tier set. Just look at this real quick. Sorry, I keep getting these errors. They haven't fixed all the add-ons yet. With the 4 set for Hellfire Citadel, Mongoose Bite has a 50% chance to reset the cooldown of Lacerate. Lacerate is one of the biggest bleeds you have at all times because it bleeds for longer than its cooldown. Now, you're thinking, well, if the bleed is longer than cooldown, why do I need to reset it? Reset it, more chances for Mongoose Bite, particularly once you use Aspect of the Eagle. It's just something to help your Mongoose Bite charges generate faster. So, enough talking about everything. We're going to harpoon in, apply the bleeds, and go from there. So, harpooned in, explosive trap, you don't have to stay at its location, neither do you have to for Dragon's Fire Grenade. So I've applied my traps, Aspect of the Eagle. Now I'm applying my Mongoose stack. So you can see right here in the center of my screen, I've got now 6 stacks. This is when I'd want to pop my Fury of the Eagle, do a crap ton of damage. Now, my Mongoose stacks are off. Oh, I've gotten to 3 again, so now I'm going to try and get all these up. I've got Explosive Trap coming off cooldown right now. Reapply it, Dragon's Fire Breath, reapply it, and try and get a couple more stacks. Oh, I got 4 stacks. So, 4 stacks Mongoose Bite, still pretty good. I've got to wait now at this point to get stacks back up. You don't want to, I've got 1 charge right now, as you can see down here. I don't want to start yet. The problem with starting at this point is if I start early, oh, there, I got a proc, so I'm going to go ahead. If I start early, then it's not likely that I will get 6 charges. So I've got 4 flying bleeds, 5. So I got 5. If I applied my bleeds beforehand, they were off cooldown, would have probably gotten the 6 charges. Also trying to mix in Throwing Axe. This class, in my opinion, is one that requires a lot of management. It gets a lot of flack for people saying it's boring. Okay, yeah, the basic gameplay of what they were trying to do, I'll agree, is boring. As soon as you mix in the bleeds, it's a different story. Your bleeds make and break the game. The charges are important. As you can see, I've kept my Throwing Axes off cooldown. Now, I'm not like going ham on my DPS right now. I'm only holding about 47k. I've been able to hold 80k at times, so I'm going to wait here for my abilities to come off cooldown. Let's see what I can be able to max with just really focusing, going hard. So, anyway, I'm going to apply the bleeds first. Steel trap, you have to place location. I wish they changed that. All the other traps just go to your target. So, it's frustrating that that's the way it is, but yeah, what do you do? So I do want to try and always keep a bleed up of Mongoose Bite, even if I'm not going to try and stack it. It does do well for your DPS to keep it up, so that's one thing I would strongly recommend, is trying to always keep at least 1 bleed of Mongoose Bite up at all times. So that's the Survival Hunter. Like I said, I feel like I've been getting a lot of flack from the community saying Blizzard didn't do a good job, Blizzard could have done something really cool. I think it's a really cool spec. I feel like it definitely, to me, really seems like a Survival Hunter. It's definitely a spec I've enjoyed playing. So the other class I'm going to look at is BM, and there's a couple things I just want to point out that I feel like are going to be beneficial when Legion comes around. Obviously, don't have the artifact weapon. Kind of hard to just state what is going to be best at this point, but I have a couple theories that I just want to put out there because no one's really talking about them. So, quick, before we look at the talents, I'll go over the basic gameplay at first. Basic gameplay, you apply Bestial Wrath. It's on a 1.5 cooldown. Increases all damage you deal by 20%. Now mine says 26.4 seconds because I've got the Clash Trinket off of Archimon. Increases duration by 75 seconds. I've believe the base cooldown is 15 seconds. So keep that in mind. Each time you do Dire Beast, so I'm actually gonna change this talent real quick. Each time you do Dire Beast, it generates 24 focus over time, over an 8-second period. Dire Beast summons a pet in, and it's there for 8 seconds, generates 24 focus, 10-second cooldown. So obviously your beast goes away before your cooldown. However, if you look at your passives, you have a passive here called Wild Call. Your auto shot, crit strikes, 35% chance to reset cooldown on Dire Beast. That is higher than base. Base is 20%, but I've chosen a talent that increases it by 15. So, chance to reset that. Every time you use Dire Beast, you cut 15 seconds off of Bestial Wrath's cooldown. The idea is to get enough Bestial Wrath procs to continually keep up enough Dire Beast procs, to keep Bestial Wrath off cooldown. Get as many kill commands in as possible. That's your main pet attack. And your filler is Cobra Shot, which deals just damage, uses a fair amount of focus. The exception would be if you're in an AoE situation, every 8 seconds you're going to want to pop multi-shot. That'll apply a Beast Cleave that your main pet will then do damage to everything that got hit by multi-shot for 8 seconds. So that's the basis of it. Now we're going to go to talent tree, kind of things I like about it. Tier 1, Big Game Hunter, seems good. Increased crit strike chance for the first 20% of health on your targets. Not that effective after that initial 80%. And there's other problems you have as a hunter. Particularly BM, you're always focus starved. It's a big problem. You don't have a focus generator anymore that you can really control. Your Dire Beast is purely a luck or a cooldown factor. Way the Cobra Shot deals more damage for each pet or guardian you have active. Now with the artifact weapon, you do get a second pet, so you always have 2 at all times. And then this will also increase for each Dire Beast you have out. So if you get really lucky, get a lot of Dire Beasts, this potentially has the ability to do a lot of damage. But like I said, BM Hunters particularly, Survival has a little bit of a problem with it, not as bad. But BM Hunters are very focus starved, which is why I strongly recommend Dire Stable. Now, a Dire Stable gives you 12 additional focus over its duration, which helps a lot. Now, the thing I want to really talk about, the main reason I wanted to bring BM up in this video, was this second row, this tier 30 talent tree. You've got some cool options, some, well, maybe options, and an option that I feel like is very overlooked that I think a lot of BM hunters should reconsider. So you have Stomp. Basically does an AoE damage to all enemies whenever you use a Dire Beast. Kind of cool. You're getting that at least every 10 seconds roughly, but it looks kind of weird when you summon an eagle and it stomps the ground. The damage is comparable to that of Cobra Shot, which every 7 seconds basically does 23,000 damage, but also helps with that focus generation. You get 10 focus every time you use it. You could potentially use this instead of Dire Stable and go with Way the Cobra. Kind of how you want to do your gameplay. The talent I feel like really needs to be looked at a little harder is Dire Frenzy. Now this is the one I've been playing with on my BM Hunter. I feel like this is going to be have the potential to do a lot of crazy stuff once you get the artifact weapon. So it replaces Dire Beast. Your main pet does 5 attacks really fast, increases attack speed for 8 seconds. generates 37 focus as opposed to the Dire Beast that generated 25. You get the same amount of procs you do as Dire Beast, slightly longer cooldown, so if you happen to not get a proc, kind of out in that regard with a couple extra seconds. But I feel like this is going to be something that has potential to do more damage, especially because when you get the artifact weapon, there's an ability called Titan's Thunder, where Dire Beast, if you're using Dire Beast, they each unleash a blast of damage. But if you're using Dire Frenzy, each of your 5 attacks does 200% nature damage to the target. So you use that, it's a lot of damage. I calculated it based on what my character's currently at. I think it's almost twice as much as if you have 2 Dire Beasts. If you end up getting 3 Dire Beasts, it's a little more even. But once again, it's all speculation since we don't actually have the artifact weapon. Third tier, kind of the same thing as before. Just go post haste. Far Strider's not that beneficial. You're not going to need to disengage more than every 20 seconds, or you're doing something wrong. Dash, same thing, pointless, don't use it. Tier 60, one of the packs seems to be the best one right now. You get more resets, Dire Beast, or Dire Friends, depending on what you're going with. Therefore, more Bestial Wrath. Bestial Fury, Bestial Wrath's buffed, but if you get less Bestial Wrath, that increased bonus damage evens out. Blink Strike, don't know why anyone would use this. I love the idea behind it. I think it's great. I've used it in raids before, but the advantage of one with the pack just outweighs it. Tier 75, whichever stun you like. Binding Shot's really good for if you have a lot of targets. Wyvern Sting tends to be really good for raids. And Intimidation, I like when I'm just doing questing or out in the world, if I'm gonna go slow and hit one target at a time. But Binding Shot, I think, is one of the best stuns that a hunter has. Tier 90, this is the other tier that I feel like a lot of hunters either disagree on or have a misconception about, or I'm not sure where some of the logic's coming from. Murder the Crows does a lot of damage, 215,000. Barrage does 146 or 141,000, and then roughly 70,000 to every other target it hits. Both big damage dealers, do a lot. They cost a lot of focus though. And if you're focus starved and you're using Barrage on cooldown, you're not doing kill commands, which really do a lot more damage. 45,000 damage on a 6-second cooldown. You roughly get 4 of those in a kill command, or yeah, in a barrage cooldown. But you're not focus starving yourself even more. So the one thing I want to get hunters to potentially think about is this Volley one. It's a click on, click off ability. No, here's my bars. Just click it on, it's on. Click it off, it's off. All it does is change your auto attacks to an AoE that costs 3 focus. Now, think, well, you're talking about being focus starved. Why would I want to spend more focus on my auto attacks? One pure reason. Each one of those AoE auto attacks has that 35% chance to reset your Dire Beast. That means your chance is higher for each auto attack. Meaning more Dire Beast, more Bestial Wrath, more kill commands. I think it tends to be one of the best options to go with. Particularly when you mix it in with this last row. Killer Cobra, best talent in my opinion. When you have Bestial Wrath up, use Cobra Shot, you can reset kill command. That means you get kill command for days. Use Bestial Wrath, Dire Beast. While you're waiting for Dire Beast to reset, you just alternate between kill command and Cobra Shot. Kill command, Cobra Shot. Dire Beast comes up, or Dire Frenzy, whichever one you're using. Use that, and then fill between Cobra Shot and kill command. is a fair amount of damage. Stampede, the new animation, pretty cool. It just has a lot of beasts that just run forward. The problem is, if your target moves, you're no longer doing damage from Stampede. It's a targeted ability, and they run forward for 12 seconds. You can't change it. Aspect of the Beast, same thing it did for Survival. I wish they hadn't put this here, just because it doesn't make any sense to me. Even looking at the PvP side, I do a fair amount of PvP. I can't see why I would go with this. Especially because Killer Cobra just resets kill commands. You get kill commands like crazy. Kill commands for days. It's freaking awesome. I'm going to show you here in a sec. So, this, like I said, this is the build I've been going with. No Dire Beast. Dire Frenzy, kind of focusing more on my main pet doing damage. I did do some testing, and I'm within 3,000 or 4,000 DPS numbers with each other, and it really just all comes down to procs. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this. Now, this one I'm going to pop my DPS cooldown off the bat. Don't need to apply any bleeds. Pet's going to run in. So yeah, so the DPS cooldown, I did forget to cover that. They turned it into an aspect of the wild. Me and my pet both get 10 focus every 1 second, and then there's a 10% increased crit strike chance on all attacks. So that takes that chance to reset Dire Beast or Dire Frenzy up by roughly 10%. So it ends up being more beneficial. So this is the basic gameplay. DPS cooldown, Bestial Wrath, kill command, Dire Frenzy, once he gets up there, kill command, Cobra Shot, kill command, Cobra Shot. I'm going to turn Volley on so you can kind of see what it looks like. It's pretty cool animation. You got arrows fall from the sky. I didn't get any resets. That was weird. That boar is part of my tier set, which they actually is not working correctly for BM. It does summon the fell boar, but the 2-set part of it is supposed to increase the duration of Dire Beast. Doesn't do that, and there's not an part of it for Dire Frenzy. So, I mean, someone who's going with Dire Frenzy right now, really frustrated. So the other thing I want you to look at is here at my hunter. It is glowing right now. That is how they've changed all your procs, your abilities. So that's what Bestial Wrath looks like when it's active. Trying to go away from looking at other areas to see if, oh, do I have this on? Do I have it off? So I'm going to use Bestial Wrath right here. I started glowing again. I got a reset proc. And as you can see, pretty simple gameplay. Not much gets added with the artifact weapon, unfortunately. You're basically just Dire Beast or Dire Frenzy, Bestial Wrath on cooldown, and filler. You occasionally can use that Titan Thunder I did talk about, but you're probably going to end up using that with your DPS cooldown. So, like I said, not much to add to it. It's the same gameplay whether you have it or not. So, a couple things to think about for you hunters out there. I'm really frustrated with the forums, just shredding apart the Dire Frenzy and Volley, and everyone saying, oh, gotta go with Stampede, and I don't see why. As a hunter, as my main, and the way tooltips work, to me, it just makes sense with the build I go with. Now, obviously, one of the great things about WoW, you don't have to go with what anyone else says, don't have to go with what the highest DPS is, unless you're maybe in a mythic raiding guild. That's a different story, but you're welcome to go with what you want to play with. So I recommend trying out some of the things I suggested. Have fun with it. I've been playing a lot of survival since the patch. mainly because I raid with marksmen, or I had been raiding with marksmen. I played BM for a long time until marksmen started doing more damage, and I am in a mythic raiding guild, so that is something that is important. But I've had a lot of fun with survival. I did my time walkers this week as survival. It was a lot of fun, so I recommend giving it a try. And if any of you see Preach, tell him to come look at what I said about the survival hunter. He didn't seem to like survival hunter, but I don't know how intensive he was on the bleed aspect, so maybe I stated something that he could either give me some feedback on, or tell me why he did not like the survival hunter aspect. So yeah, other than that, I thank everyone for watching, and or viewing this later whenever you get around to it, and hope that you like it. Send me comments, send me feedback, let me know how I did. So hope you have a good day. I do want to throw out one other thing. If you like my UI, post a comment, let me know, and I'll do a video on my UI and how I have it set up, and hopefully help some of you get set up for this look. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all later.